All right, now let's circle back to our top story, and that is the news of two MPs from the ruling People's Action Party resigning from their seats after what has been described as an inappropriate relationship. Deputy Prime Minister Lawrence Wong has reacted to the resignations while away for G20 meetings.
He says that the PAP has and will always maintain stringent standards of propriety and conduct while staying clean and incorrupt. Mr. Wong says that these are foundational to the people's trust in the party. Echoing the Prime Minister's earlier remarks, Mr. Wong emphasised the paramount duty that the party's MPs owe to Parliament and the people of Singapore. A closer look now at the resignation letters that were submitted to PM Lee by Speaker of Parliament Tan Chuan-Jin and MP Cheng Li-hui. They apologised to residents in their wards and to the party as well.
In his letter, Mr. Tan said he made a mistake by uttering words that were rude and unparliamentary in nature, adding that some had called for his resignation. He said that he should have known better as Speaker and that his mistake raised questions over his neutrality. He then said that the credibility of Parliament cannot be compromised. Further down the letter, Mr. Tan said that the recent episode added to the hurt he caused his family. He said he had let them down. While Mr. Tan did not go into details, he said that he had discussed the matter with his wife and had agreed to devote himself to his family. Ms. Cheng wrote in her letter that she is sorry to be resigning in these circumstances, but she did not elaborate. Ms. Cheng is not married.
A former Brigadier General turned politician. Let's take a closer look at Mr. Tan Chuan-Jin's political career over the past decade or so.
Mr. Tan made his political debut in 2011 as part of a 5-member PAP team contesting in the Marine Parade GRC. It won by more than 56% of the vote, and Mr. Tan went on to represent the GRC's Kembangan Chai Chee ward. In 2012, he was appointed Senior Minister of State for National Development. 2 years later, Mr. Tan was promoted to full minister, helming the Manpower Ministry. And in a cabinet reshuffle in 2015, he changed portfolios to become the Social and Family Development Minister. At the 2015 GE, Mr. Tan and his team retained the seats with more than 64% of the votes. He continued to lead the Social and Family Development Ministry. In 2017, Mr. Tan stepped down from the cabinet. He took on a new role as the country's 10th Speaker of Parliament, succeeding current Singapore President Halimah Yacob. At the last general election, Mr. Tan's team went up against candidates from the Workers' Party and won with a 16% margin. He continued to serve as Speaker up until his resignation on Monday. Prior to his foray into politics, Mr. Tan served in the Singapore Army between 1987 and 2011, where he held the rank of Brigadier General. He has also been the President of the Singapore National Olympic Council since 2014.
Cheng Li-hui's resignation ended a political career that spanned 8 years. Now, most know her as an MP for Tampines GRC. Here's a look at her political journey. Ms. Cheng made her political debut in 2015. She was elected as an MP for Tampines GRC, helmed by then Education Minister Heng Swee Keat. 5 years later, Ms. Cheng was re-elected, representing the Tampines East Division. Now, during these 8 years, Ms. Cheng also held leadership roles within the ruling party. In 2016, she was appointed Deputy District Advisor in the PAP Women's Wing. The former MP was previously a businesswoman.
We're joined again by Professor Eugene Tan. Prof, PM Lee mentioned that he had knowledge about the relationship, the so-called inappropriate relationship between Mr. Tan and Ms. Cheng sometime after GE 2020. That would have been sometime after July of 2020, when we were right smack in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, just some 6 months into it. Few of us would have forgotten that time. But the situation between the two of them, it continued until February this year at least. So how vital is it going to be for the PAP or for the Prime Minister to address what are the perceived gaps in the timeline there? of what was known and when it was known?
Definitely, Dawn. I think the timelines, would be something that the Prime Minister would have to elaborate in a lot more detail when he makes his ministerial statement next month in Parliament. One could read, his statement today at the press conference as, that he knew certainly of the inappropriate relationship only in February. The other reading is, of course, that he knew it as early as shortly after the GE general election in 2020. So I think, what exactly, or rather when did PM exactly know of the relationship, I think would become important, right, in at least clarifying whether the party acted swiftly enough. Because I think, if the public perception is that this matter was allowed to drag out for an extended period of 3 years, then I don't think it would look well on the party leadership. But if this was something that was firm in the knowledge of the party leadership only in February this year, right, then perhaps, the damage would not be so bad. I mean, there will still be questions about whether the party, could have acted more swiftly, because going by previous precedents, the party acted very decisively in other cases, right? But it could suggest, from the Prime Minister's remarks at a press conference, that there were other factors at play. And I think these are the factors that the Prime Minister will need to elaborate next month.
Do you think the political considerations were put above doing what may be perceived by the public to have been the right thing to do?
I think if there is the view, that political considerations took priority, then I think that would be very damaging, to the party, the ruling party. I think they will have to show, that party discipline was consistent and it was being enforced, not at the expense of political considerations or political expediency. So again, this clarity, must be attained, if the party is to be able to win back, or at least get people to believe, that the party did act swiftly enough. So again, I think all eyes will be on the Prime Minister's ministerial statement. And
there will be a certain amount of soul searching at some point, I guess. Not least, they'll have to look, or questions will be asked, to look at the vetting process for party candidates. Not just how they come into the party, but also during their time in the party itself. So I'm wondering, how rigorous do you feel the process is now, and can any process be 100% foolproof?
Well, Jill, I don't think there can be a 100% foolproof process. I think that the reality of human nature is that we are all afflicted with human frailties. So someone who may be assessed, to be appropriate, upright, at one point in time, may not be so at a subsequent point in time, and it could happen the other way as well. But certainly, the recent spate of incidents does raise questions about whether, the vetting process is sufficiently robust. But to your other point, is whether, there are these mechanisms within the party, where if there are indications that things are not going well, whether, let's say, an MP is not conducting himself or herself appropriately, whether there could be channels for party activists, to bring it to the attention of the party leadership. So I think this is a time where the party needs to do a lot of soul searching, as part of the whole process of, trying to determine, how it could have done better and how it would avoid similar incidents. And all this is really part of the process of trying to regain trust and confidence of Singaporeans.
Well, Prof. Tan, sit tight once more. We're going to circle back to you in just a moment as we cover other developments.